I promised my oil community that I would give them a little bit of education from aromatherapy. So this is a little bit different than giving you product information. I'm actually going to teach you about the aromatherapy industry and some of the things that I learned in my course. This is not all inclusive, but it's definitely going to be more than you'd probably get from a book or somewhere else. I'm going to actually cover oils that aren't part of doTERRA because that's what I learned about too. And then after we're done all that, I might dive into some of doTERRA's oils. So now, first I'd like to start off by introducing myself. If you haven't met me already and you're part of my aromatherapy community, my name is Rhonda Greenberry. I am a certified aromatherapist. And after 2.5 years of educating and researching essential oils, I decided to align myself with a superior brand, doTERRA, based on that 2.5 years of education and research. So that means that I have a lot of information that I pulled out from most of the competing essential oil businesses, and doTERRA won on every aspect by far. So that's why I choose to align with that brand. Most practitioners do have brand preferences. I like to compare it as like buying your multivitamins from the dollar store versus buying them from an actual practitioner who knows something about oil, the vitamins, right? So when we talk about essential oils, that's basically what you're doing. When you buy oils through my affiliation with doTERRA, then what you're doing is you're ensuring that you're getting a brand that is pure and recognized by a certifying body. And if an aromatherapist isn't certification enough for you, we are a huge science and medical based company, doTERRA is, so you can look up anything you want. There's Natalia. What's wrong, baby? And Natalia's going to join us for a video. Oh, I'm going to pause for 1 sec. So, aromatherapy actually comes with a history. This is really interesting because often you'll hear people say things like, oh, essential oils can be found in the Bible. In some aspects, yes, that's true, but in other aspects, not entirely true. Back in biblical times, they weren't as aware or familiar with how to actually distill to get the oils out. So really what we're talking about is plant-based matter. Most of the history on essential oils is plant-based. It doesn't start turning into actual essential oils until we get to the time in history when we actually learn how to distill them and pull the oils out, and they discover that there's actually a very specific difference between taking the herb versus using the actual essential oil. So I'm just going to quickly reference at my book. So aromatherapy can be traced back about 5,000 years. You could almost say that it's probably one of the original medicines is herbalism, right? Now in India, they have what they call as Ayurvedic, which is the knowledge of longevity. Okay, so this dates back some 5,000 years. Some of the principal aspects of Ayurvedic medicine is massage and essential oils. Okay, one of the oldest known books on plants, it mentions aromatic materials such as sandalwood, myrrh, ginger, coriander, and cinnamon. Hindus burned incense as early as 1700 BC, including sandalwood, patchouli, and benzoin. Okay. The next would be Egypt. So in Egypt, there are volumes of information in the Egyptian papyrus. I may not be pronouncing things right. I'm dyslexic, so bear with me. Showing the use of plants in medicine, cosmetics, and massage. The Egyptians were the first to perfect the art of aromatherapy. So they're one of the original recognized cultures to know what aromatherapy is and how to use it. So the Nile Valley was known as the cradle of medicine. Among plants brought into this area were cedarwood, myrrh, frankincense, and cinnamon. About 5,000 years ago, perfumery was closely linked with religion. Now, when we say perfumery, when we're talking about history, this is long before they decided to add synthetics to it and alcohols and turn perfumes into toxins. So before then, perfumes were just considered these beautiful scents, and essential oils would be referred to as perfumes. But back then, they didn't have access to things that created them into toxic chemicals. So it's a little bit different, okay? Priests formulated aromas that they used to use for anointing. Incense was a way of contacting the ancestor spirits. Incense would also purify the atmosphere and drive away evil spirits. It would also drive out disease of the sick person, and mummification was another type of aromatic ceremony. So that's really interesting. Egyptians made extensive use of rose, jasmine, frankincense, and myrrh. Over the ensuing years, they perfected their knowledge of the medicinal properties of aromatics and of perfumery and of making scented ointments. In China, one of the earliest known texts containing written instructions on how to use herbs as medicine was written by the Chinese. The Great Herbal, or Pen Sao, was written by Shen Nung and dates back to 2800 BC. It contains a list of 350 plants, many of which we still use today. The Chinese Emperor Huang Tai included herbal medicine in his book on disease. His book is called The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine. The use of incense was recorded around 1600 BC, including camphor, sandalwood, and pine. China introduced incense to Japan in the 6th century. Now, Greece and Rome. Greeks and Romans traveled to Egypt and returned with incense and spice. Apparently, in those days, the Greek soldiers carried myrrh with them to treat the wounds of their soldiers. About 400 to 500 BC, a medical school was set up in the Greek island of Kos. It became famous through the presence of Hippocrates. So we all tend to know about Hippocrates. He's known as the father of medicine. Every holistic natural health book that you ever pick up will have some type of reference to Hippocrates because he is the man that started it all. And even medical doctors, their oath in their medical practices is actually originated from Hippocrates. So pretty cool. So Hippocrates is the one who said the way to health is to have an aromatic bath and scented massage every day. The Greeks made an important contribution to the future study of plant medicine by classifying and indexing the knowledge they got from the Egyptians. The Romans were the greatest bathers, so they believed in the health of giving properties of natural spa baths. The wealthy were massaged with aromatic oils by their slaves after bathing. They used scented oils, powdered perfumes, and solid perfume ointments. They scented their hair, bodies, clothes, and beds. De Sortes, a Roman in the 1st century AD, wrote De Materia Medica. Now this is really important because this is actually a medical book that's still referenced to this day and used very widely in all healthcare practitioner studies. So they go over, and it actually has the properties of over 500 plants. So even in the medical model, they actually reference this book a lot. So that's pretty interesting, right? Much of our present knowledge of medical herbs originated from that book. Okay. Then we move on to Babylonian, or Lebanon. So a tablet dated 1800 BC shows an order for oils of myrrh, cypress, and cedar. There are many references made to the use of plants and their oils in the Bible. When Moses led the Jews from Egypt, he was given instructions on how to make a holly oil and a holly incense. This was used to make sacred Aaron and his sons. Galbanum and frankincense were in the formula. Now this is where we get to the part where we get to distillation. So this is when real essential oils started to roll out, the true, not just the herb, but the actual oil. So the Arabs perfected the art of distillation in the 10th century AD. Distillation extraction was discovered or rediscovered by an Arabian, I can't pronounce things, physician Avicenna. So that's really interesting because that's when we actually got into distilling oils. How cool is that, right? The use of aromatics was denounced as decadent with the rise of Christianity in the 4th century. And several centuries passed before Christianity would gradually accept many of the traditional olfactory practices and beliefs. During the plague of the Middle Ages, fumigation was used. They used frankincense, lavender, sulfur, hops, and pepper. Many people wore lockets containing aromatics for their antiseptic properties. Distilled products caught on in Europe, and Europeans began their own perfumeries. They had the thriving perfume business by the end of the 12th century. In Europe, about 1530, the commercial production of essential oils and perfume compounds began in Grasse, France. And now I'm just gonna, so that's a little bit of the history, right? That kind of leads up to almost modern day. So I'm just gonna get a little bit into the people who are credited to bringing essential oils and aromatherapy into our worlds now. So René Maurice Gattefossé was born in Lyon, France in 1881. He was a chemist who inherited his father's essential oil and perfume business. While he was conducting experiments on cosmetic uses of essential oils, he was badly burned in an explosion. In his book, he states, "In my personal experience, after a laboratory explosion covered me in burning substances, which I extinguished by rolling on a grassy lawn, both my hands were covered with a rapidly developing gas gangrene. Just one rinse of lavender essence stopped the gasification of the tissue. This treatment was followed by profuse sweating, and healing began the next day. After witnessing how lavender healed his burns and helped prevent scarring, he became fascinated with the therapeutic properties of oils and devoted much of his life to researching them. In 1928, Gattefossé published his first book, Aromatherapy, that's spelled the French way, and he is credited with coining the term aromatherapy. So that's pretty cool. Marguerite Maury was an Australian biochemist who was married to a French homeopathic physician. She researched methods of rejuvenation and wrote the book The Secret of Life and Youth. She set up the first aromatherapy clinics in Paris, Britain, and Switzerland. She introduced the idea of combining essential oils with massage and developing specialized massage techniques, applying oils along nerve centers of the spine. Dr. William Arnold Taylor, a physiologist and educator, introduced Margaret Maury to Britain. He introduced aromatherapy training for therapists. Dr. Jean Valnet, a physician living in France, used essential oils in his practice and wrote The Practice of Aromatherapy that was published in 1964. He was an army surgeon during the Indonesian War of 1948 to 1959 and used essential oils as antiseptics for treating wounds. Dr. Paolo Rovesti, an Italian researcher, wrote In Search of Perfumes Lost. He researched the use of citrus oils to treat depression, which there's actually a mountain of evidence on right now. Robert Tisserand, somebody that a lot of people know in the essential oil world, a British aromatherapist, can be credited for sparking the interest of essential oils and aromatherapy worldwide when he published his book, The Art of Aromatherapy, one of the first books written on aromatherapy in English, and was published in 1977. Additionally, he also published the Essential Oil Safety book, so if you don't have that, I strongly suggest it. It's a very expensive book. It's about $120, but it basically covers every essential oil you can think of. Maggie Tisserand is the former wife of Robert Tisserand, and she lived and breathed essential oils while married to Robert, and authored Aromatherapy for Women, drawing on her experiences during pregnancy, childbirth, and bringing up 3 children. She now has several books to her credit. Jean Rose, a California native and an international authority on the therapeutic use of herbs. Jean has authored 22 books on aromatherapy and herbs and is a well-known lecturer. This couple's really cool. So Shirley and Len Price are known for their worldwide best-selling books on aromatherapy. They have Practical Aromatherapy and the Aromatherapy Workbook. She pioneered in aromatherapy education, And Len, who was first trained as an aeronautical engineer, became an aromatherapist as he worked with his wife Shirley, running a world-renowned training center and products organization in the UK. Robert and Rianne Harris, essential oil resource consultants, are providers of research, information, and education in the field of essential oils and lecture worldwide. Patricia Davis wrote a best-selling book called Aromatherapy, an A to Z, and Subtle Aromatherapy. I have Subtle Aromatherapy. It's actually a really cool book. It covers things like chakras and dowsing, and it's really, really, really interesting. Dr. Daniel Pinoyal, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Pinoyal, graduated as a medical doctor from Paris Medical University in 1976. He has been involved in practicing and teaching medical aromatherapy for over 30 years. He has worked in collaboration with Pierre Franchomme, with whom co-authored L'Aromatherapie Exactement. Kurt Schnaubelt, a German chemist and leader in aromatherapy in the U.S. since 1983. He is the author of Advanced Aromatherapy. He wrote a textbook of scientifically based aromatherapy. Salvador Bagdalia is the author of The Complete Guide to Aromatherapy, also a really good book. And then one that's not in my books I'm going to mention is, actually two, is that are currently really well known in the essential oil world. We have Mark Webb, who is an Australian chemist. He is world renowned in the aromatherapy world, and currently he's rolling out a curriculum called Aromatic Medicine, where we teach advanced aromatherapy skills, where we address things on the ingestion level, which is far more superior than anything that we offer in a current holistic model in Canada and the US. So you usually have to go to other countries to take the course, or if we're fortunate enough to have him come over to our western side for it, you can jump in on his workshops, but it's something I hope to one day do. And then there's also Dr. Robert Pappas, also a world-renowned research chemist. He runs his own business, the Essential Oil University. I reference him a lot. He knows unlimited amounts about the chemical construction of essential oils and the benefits of that. So I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit about history. And I will get in a little bit more about what more I learned in my course as we go. So I hope that wasn't too much. See you later. Bye.